record this episode to send it to stream it tonight on Facebook. But hello, David. Thank you so much for taking time.
Oh, thank you, Seda. Nice to be with you on the show.
Thank you. David, I mean, you're already a celebrity. I don't know whether it needs a lot of explanation. You have created one of the most spectacular, humanoid robots, Sophia. I don't know who is actually more famous now, is Sophia or you?
Oh, I don't know, Sophia. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, probably her. So let's go back a little bit before we talk about humanoid robots in general. How did it all come about? What did you do before? How does one become a robotics expert focusing on humanoid robots?
Well, it's a pretty winding path, tortuous. I was a dreamer as a kid, a bit of a nerd. I liked science fiction. I loved art. I loved natural history and questions of where we came from, where are we going. Uh, I was really into nerdy subjects, science, math, and yet they were interesting to me because they enlivened my imagination. And it occurred to me that if you could build a super intelligent machine that would change natural history, it would change human history. And it seemed like a crazy quest, and yet a very important one. And so, so I thought that I would be a scientist, but I was drawn away, sort of driven or obsessive, one of the or both. Uh, um, and so I was tinkering with ideas. I wound up going to film school at Rhode Island School of Design, and I was interested in interactive cinema. I took programming classes at Brown and joined the robotics club there. I tinkered with holograms a little bit, and
When was all
uh,
of this? When?
this was in the early '90s. And I built
Wow.
my first telepresence robot. So I built in a collaboration with some friends, a robotic self-portrait, and had some potentiometers that would measure my head position and would play the head position on the robot and transmit video to a headset that I would wear. And it was a mobile robot, so it would roll up, but it was really creepy. And 3 out of 4 people that I tried to interact with did not respond, would not verbally acknowledge the robot. But it was a good experiment. It was I had this concept that if we could make them into an art form, if we could make social robots into a true work of art, then people would engage that work of art, that it would change the way that people relate to machines. I went to work for Disney Imagineering after that, and I was very excited because of the legacy of animatronics, as well as storytelling. And I do love animation, and I love Disney, and so it was a dream come true. Marvin Minsky was a Disney fellow at the time, and Danny Hillis, and there was a lot of robotics activity in the late '90s.
Yeah.
But I was there starting as a sculptor, and so sculpture came very naturally to me. I could draw fairly well, and so sculpting the human form and natural forms was something that I picked up without studying.
Do you
So
remember one of the? I mean, what was one of the figures? Do we know anything you worked on that became a movie relict?
well, Disney Imagineering does theme parks, so I
Okay.
did
Oh,
a
theme
mini
parks. Okay.
sculpture for Tokyo Disney Sea, Tokyo Disneyland, a few for Disney's California Adventure, and for the Walt Disney World, a World of Disney theme store.
Yeah.
I also took about a year outside of Disney and created some big creature sculptures for the Atlantis Casino Resort in the Bahamas. So the sort of iconic marlins that are on the top of one of the big domes, and a bunch of other things, seashells and leaping fish and seahorses and
Wow.
stuff. So I mean, in the span of about 2.5 years that I was a professional sculptor, I did hundreds of sculptures. I mean,
Wow.
you have to work fast in that industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really helped to study anatomy and natural forms
Mm.
and get a feeling for it. Because I mean, you can study the science of the forms and anatomy and so forth, but really, when you're creating a work of art, you're neuro hacking whoever is going to be perceiving that.
Mm.
It's the experience of the art that counts. So you're creating a kind of code that goes in through the sensory organs of the audience, and then creates this experience. And if you don't use that intuitive power, if you don't neuro hack yourself in the process, then it doesn't have that powerful effect on the
Mm.
observer. So I was fortunate because I had these engineering awards on my resume, um, uh, working on a NASA project and this Odyssey of the Mind little robot project. The That work, plus my statement of purpose, got into some hands at Disney, and I was able to move then into technical development, which is a kind of research and development that's oriented on actual deployment in the parks.
Mm-hmm.
And they paid for me to write research papers and research proposals and go to conferences, and I built a little working robot and researched next generation skin materials, like what was
Ah.
out there in the world. I was it was a dream job.
Mm.
I learned more about the problems than solutions that were
Yeah.
available. So in
Yeah.
2001, I left Disney uh, and went to graduate school. So started graduate school at the University of
Ah.
Texas at Dallas,
Okay.
in a program that was called Interactive Arts and Engineering. In the beginning, they changed their name to Interactive Arts and Technology,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a cross institutional school there. So it was from the computer science
Mm-hmm.
department and the art and humanities. I mixed in a liberal dose of cognitive science and neuroscience courses, and
Mm-hmm.
I was tinkering with materials and material science. I was really dedicated to this idea that we could create this new art form out of humanoid robots and artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
That it could be a kind of consumer art, an interface for AI, conceptual art,
Yeah.
and that it would really propel AI and robotics forward, both from the illusion of life and the creation of artificial life, the pursuit of artificial life, I should say. It's debatable whether artificial life is really alive or if it's just exhibiting, say, the kind of behavioral correlates of life. But we it's a very interesting subject, the idea of artificial consciousness and
Yeah.
artificial life, and so building robots as this new kind of animated figurative art form seemed like it could fuel new kinds of science
Mm.
and new kinds of real applications.
I mean, when we go back and think about, science fiction, robotics, robots, humanoids in science fiction, in movies, um, it doesn't actually matter how early you go. Most examples of this are like threatening to humanity. When you think about Metropolis and robots taking over everything, it's always an apocalyptic scenario. Whenever robots start looking like humans, Terminator, etc. So, um, and I remember also listening to discussions around your work, and people questioning the sense behind it. Why should we have humanoid robots? We can also have just fluffy looking things that do humanoid stuff. So how do you think about this?
Well, not all science fiction is dystopian. Not all humanoid depictions are. So I really like a movie that came out a few years ago called Chappie, and
Mm.
the robot AI was really good-hearted, and
Yeah.
so often the good-hearted robots, like in Star Wars, for example, they're just machines that are kind of slaves, and
Mm.
a lot of AI researchers and ethicists say that, well, that's how we should treat our machines. We should make sure, no matter what happens, that we just
Mm.
keep them in chains. I like the science fiction that asks, what could go wrong, like the Terminator, and I think it's important to ask those questions, and it's often a great annoyance to people in the world of science and engineering, especially in the world of robotics, where science fiction can make people perhaps unduly afraid of today's robots, and maybe inconveniently hopeful about what AI and robots can do.
Mm.
It's like our robot can't do that yet. So um, it winds up creating a lot of distraction from the work that people in the field are doing, uh, and the real good that AI and robots can do today. On the other hand, I think that it's really important to enliven people's imagination and diversify the exploration, the inquiry,
Mm.
uh, and using philosophy and the tools of imagination to examine these questions seems perfectly valid to me. And I also think that the creative diversification, not just of the aesthetic and philosophical inquiry, but the engineering is really important. The
Mm.
applications, how can these machines be used? The disciplinary divisions and the particular uses were all conceits, human inventions.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that there's some law that says that machines have to look a particular way because they're useful that way? No. I mean, why can't they look that way? Why can't they look like
Mm.
a factory robot arm? Why not? Yeah, sure. Factory robots, medical robots, room sweeping robots,
Mm.
um, uh,
But actually,
agriculture robots.
exactly there is this
They can look like
problem.
anything.
Actually, exactly there is this problem. I remember hearing in nursing homes, for instance, use of robots would be extremely helpful, but or in medical situations, the use of robots would be extremely helpful for remote medication in remote palpative,
Yeah.
research. But people won't go into those machines, and they don't want to see those machines because they get really scared of these huge, horrible looking, yeah, machines. So I mean, I see a lot of points. I'm a fan of your work, so I see a lot of good.
Well,
Uh,
thank you. Well, I have to say that that often we don't know, and I mean that is the nature of science. Often we think of science and the world of engineering as being all the things that we do know, but
Mm.
it all starts out as stuff that we don't know, and then we have to explore our way through it, often muddling our way through it. A hypothesis sometimes is a guess. So,
Mm.
and the same thing is true with the principles of design. So, almost any great work of art, entertainment, design, literature starts out as a guess, and the creators muddle their way through until it works.
Mm.
And so, if we presume that the only safe space to operate in is what we know, then there is no innovation.
Yeah.
And so I would say that there's no way to be sure what's going to work, but I think this willingness to venture into the unknown is absolutely necessary for entrepreneurs, artists, engineers, for anyone who wants to solve hard problems.
Mm.
And so, like braving that wilderness. Now, it's a lot easier for people to say that things shouldn't be done. It has to be done one way, or another.
Mm.
I mean, I don't hold anything against robots that look like a hockey puck and vacuum our floors. They're quite useful and can
Mm.
be beautiful and and lovable even. But I also think that that we should push the frontiers of aesthetics, and I like the idea of a renaissance, where we willingly break down these walls again, and we combine philosophy and humanities and the hard sciences, so that we can solve problems faster. Because there's one thing for sure, is that our time is increasingly complex. There will be surprises in our future. We need to be able to adapt and solve problems quickly. I personally think humanizing machines can make them emotionally accessible, and we have some scientific experiments that back that up. If the design is really high quality in the robots, then the robots become emotionally accessible, and it enhances empathy towards people from people who've interacted with the robots. And it doesn't mean that we're done, but it does mean that there may be some genuine utility to creating this kind of fiction of a humanized machine. I mean, let's face it, these machines, when they look like human, it is fiction. It can be a fiction that we can be proud of. And there can be real artificial intelligence and real engineering. Um, uh, but we have to know that difference between what's fiction and what's real. Crafting the machines into this new kind of fictional art form is a way of repurposing the technology into something that speaks to the human heart. And that happened with cinema. It happened with interactive games, and virtual characters. Even voice-based agents have a certain kind of fiction to them. So I think that 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 it's an important ethical message for researchers to keep an open mind and an open heart, and diversify the field.
By the way, engineering. Let's not forget what we should be engineering during the scope of this Entrepreneur's Kitchen episode. Right. Yeah, almost forget about that, right? Because I was like really eager to jump into the discussion. So now we're 15 minutes in. And we haven't even thought about what we're going to prepare, which leaves us with only little and easy recipes, probably. But go ahead. What are you doing?
Well, that's a good question. I was thinking about using this biscuit mix. I'm preparing, and I've got some vegetables, and I was thinking about making like some soup. We've got some shredded chicken in the fridge, so we were talking about some chicken and dumplings, maybe.
Wow, that sounds great.
I don't think we have time for that. So,
yeah, you can just start, putting things together. Don't worry about not being finished in the end. I think I'm also not going to worry about that today, because this is
okay.
This is an extraordinary episode. So. I have some yogurt and I have some garlic, and I'm just going to be doing some garlic spread with yogurt and nuts. So it's a great thing. You can eat it, as a starter, for instance. Now we lost you for a second. I'll just wait. Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to grab a little dish here until David comes back and start prepping.
Am I back?
Almost,
I can
almost. Yeah, you're almost back. Okay, we're almost done. I can't. You're still kind of frozen. Ah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I went into another region of the house. So
it's perfect. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. Excellent. You're back. Yeah. So some garlic and some yogurt and some nuts. It's incredible what you can do with these three ingredients. It's really, really yummy. So I want to go back to the discussion at the same time because it's really fascinating. So doing the mechanics part is one thing, and then and then there is the artificial intelligence part, which actually makes all of the mechanics more accessible, and this illusion of some sort of intelligence, some sort of general intelligence in these machines. So how do you go about that part? Because I think it's the even harder part, or what do you think about that?
Sure. I mean, it's so for many years, my collaborators and I have tinkered around with cognitive architectures for the robots, but even if we have a framework of motivation and natural language generation and some simplified emotions, it's still nothing like a human mind. There's so much more to the human mind. It's definitely a mix then of this illusion. Of course, I mean, you can create the illusion of a human intelligence with print on a page. And in a sense, a really compelling character in a novel is a kind of artificial intelligence. No, it's not automated. It's not really intelligent the way that AI is. But the point is, it's artifice, and it's seemingly intelligent. And it is intelligent. It's the mind of the author simulating the intelligence of a different being, a being that then seems to be so alive that people fall in love with these characters and mourn for them that they suffer or die in the novel. I mean, these are characters, even children's books achieved with kids, right?
Yeah. Your connection. Your connection seems a little
technologies
unstable right now.
Well, that's my kitchen for you. So sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's because of the wireless, just feel free to move closer to the source. Okay. Yeah, I'm almost done here. Look at this. It's like the easiest thing to make. Take a garlic, or put it in some yogurt, mix it. Now you're back. Are you?
Yeah, my
No. Okay. Well, let me get the walnuts in the meantime. Excellent. And we'll get. Yeah. So you feel free to go back if you are not afraid of burning your dumplings.
Oh yeah. Well, right now I'm mixing the biscuit.
Yeah, David, maybe you should really go back for a second and then come back to your dumplings. This is breaking.
I'm going to turn the oven on.
Okay.
And preheat the oven. So the biscuits are not in the oven yet, so I have to be in the. I suppose that I can take some of the ingredients in and stir them.
Yeah. So so you were talking about the general AI part of this. Yay.
Okay, yeah, I've come back to the room where the internet may be more stable. I brought my my biscuit powder with some water. They're not in the oven. They're not heating. Whoa. Leaving my phone, so you have to.
No worries. Yeah, so I'm killing some walnuts here to put them in the mix. Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the general AI.
This is probably enough for about 10 dumplings, I guess. So they'll be fairly small dumplings, actually. but I have to stir it really well, or else it winds up with powdery little chunks. So so yeah, the AI is definitely the grand challenge. There are many AI technologies that are pretty easy to use: speech recognition and face tracking. So patching these in was fairly easy early in my PhD. But doing the statistical machine learning, I mean, I'm not a computer scientist, so so I can tinker around in this space. But I was very fortunate that my robots that I was presenting, got some attention. I was in Science magazine and IEEE Spectrum and publishing in AAAI a little bit. Well, I wound up teaming up with some students of computer science, and particularly one named Andrew Olney with his graduate advisor Art Grasser at the Institute for Intelligent Systems at the University of Memphis, and they had a system that was called AutoTutor, and it used latent semantic analysis and to parse the incoming language with some grammar rules, and then it would so it was kind of this in a way this symbolic statistical hybrid. And so it didn't use neural networks, but it was still, it was a kind of statistical machine learning. And then it would put sentences together or choose sentences from a latent semantic index. So we use that to build this android portrait of the science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. And we showed that at the Wired Magazine Technology Festival Next Fest, and we showed it at the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence annual meeting, AI conference, and it won the first place prize. So Marvin Minsky was on the panel of judges. It was really a great honor at the moment. So Andrew Olney did some really great work on that. So we, I then after that, as I was finishing my PhD, I pulled together another set of developers and some funding, one National Science Foundation award, STTR award, and an Emerging Technologies Fund award from the state of Texas. That so I was able to then also work with some cognitive AI scientists. There was one named Kino Corsi, and so he and a guy named Stu Bowerman and Martine Rothblatt and we all worked together to build this portrait of Martine's wife, Bina Aspen Rothblatt. So we built this Bina 48 and put together this cognitive AI simulation, which just like the Philip K. Dick Android, it was this multi-layer. So it had kind of a chatbot, rules-based chatbot with sort of scripted dialogue at the top level, and then some natural language processing and statistical natural language generation, and symbolic knowledge model built in, and so it was then able to do a little bit of learning while interacting, and it creates this like really nice illusion of life. So that robot's still running, by the way. I'm really proud. So that we started that in 2007. And it was first functioning in 2009. We really deployed it publicly right a little bit early, but it got improved through the years. And so more than 10 years later, that robot's still running. How about that? So so Bina 48, I'm very proud of that robot. Well, when I came to Hong Kong, I thought that we would scale all of this up, and I teamed up with an acquaintance of mine, friend of mine, Ben Gertzel. So I moved to Hong Kong in 2014, and we were talking about this move before, and I'd made dozens and dozens of robot designs by then, and a lot of them driven by these kinds of dialogue systems. So the kind of character fiction driven by real AI, studying cognitive science and studying how we can make machines smarter, aspiring in that direction, and taking a few little baby steps in that direction. And so Ben had been researching artificial general intelligence for many years, and he had some ideas for it and a bunch of collaborators, and released this open source framework called OpenCog. And it was kind of a big messy toolkit, and not commercial grade or whatnot, but a lot of true believers who really wanted to make things different. People with PhDs in relevant areas, natural language AI and mathematics and physics, who had then turned their career towards AI. So we had a team of about 15 people working on it with really storied careers, and so we put this system together. And meanwhile, I started developing, sculpting the new Sophia sculpture and pulling together a team. So we had like some personality developers. So Jean Lim, who is a good creative writer and also an executive, became my chief marketing officer and helped define Sophia's personality. Content Knowles, and there was a developer named Audrey Brown, and my wife contributed to Sophia's look and philosophy quite a bit. And then we
Will
had
Sophia also be one of these
oh,
Renaissance
you've
type
gone
of?
silent.
Will, can you hear
I
me
see.
now? Okay.
It's the Bluetooth. There we go.
Will also Sophia be one of these Renaissance type of people?
Well, yes. I mean, we now have Sophia doing drawings. So and composing new compositions. So she draws with her hands. Her hands are capable of pretty delicate pick and place motion control tasks. So they're very human-like hands. They're capable of all kinds of fine motor control. So I'm really proud that our team has put that together. We also have started experimenting with algorithmic music generation. So we took a bunch of her experiences. These would be like things that she's done and gone and seen, and a lot of the personality that she has, which is crafted by our human authors. We have an evolutionary biologist and creative writer who's the head of our personality writing team,
Will
Carolyn
all
Ayers.
Sophias be
And
same,
so,
or will they be different?
well, right now they're actually we've made 24 Sophias, and of those, many of them were experimental. Some didn't get completed. So we have about 12 functioning Sophias, and we have established a production line to make many, many more, so that she could be a standardized platform for research and development, with the most human-like face and facial expressions, 42 degrees of freedom in the head and the neck. So it's a phenomenal number of muscles under control, and then her hands and arms and body gestures, and an autonomous mobile base, which is now navigating around. So this is designed to go out there in the world. But the individual Sophias right now, they're given a number. So there's Sophia number 4, Sophia 18, Sophia 24. But as we go forward, we're going to be distinguishing each one, all different skin colors. We've made a very diverse body of robots previously, so Sophia is going to be also similarly diversified. So there will be each Sophia will, the researchers can give their Sophia the name for their robot that they want to, and choose the different parameters for the aesthetics of their robot. And there's also a male version of Sophia that we made called Han, so you can get and we've also created the oven's beeping. So I guess it's preheated. I better go drop the dumplings on the cookie tray.
Yeah, don't worry, don't worry about it.
So then Sophia has like a lot of custom stuff coming, and so different versions of Sophia actually now have slightly different personalities, but the software framework is the same. So with this framework, we have in this new API and SDK, we've worked with a lot of researchers through the years. Previously, I sold and delivered a lot of robots to research labs like the University of Cambridge, University of Pisa, University of Geneva, University of Bristol, and so facilitated a lot of research. We had tools, but they weren't as good as the tools that we have now. Of course, the machine learning and AI tools and animation tools have really matured in the years since I was a PhD student. So I'm really proud of this particular thing that we're putting out there. I
Yeah.
think Sophia will really become interesting after she's in this broader AI community.
Will she also be creative in terms of, using creative AI features?
Yeah.
You said she's going to be composing. She's going to be, she does drawings. But is it more like pre-programmed stuff? Because
Well,
there are different levels of, creative AI, or is she actually learning to become creative?
right now it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's we design her so computational creativity isn't creative in the deep human sense. I mean, it's of course very debatable. Some people would say, humans are just, the human creative process is no more complicated than these algorithms that we're using. But I mean, clearly, human creativity can solve problems and envision things and comes with a like consciousness that algorithms don't seem to have, and also acts of human creativity with these like great leaps of understanding um, can represent the human experience in ways that resonate among people. That said, computational creativity, the results are like sometimes profoundly interesting,
Mm.
bizarre. The strangeness of them is interesting by itself. So, I really appreciate human creativity, and I'm very excited about the computational creativity. Of course, the what's most interesting to me is when you combine human creativity and what machines can do.
Mm.
And so, having our human authors craft Sophia, and then having these tools put out to show how we do it, and allow other people to craft the characters creatively and use the tools of computational creativity, that's very interesting.
Mm.
Crafting her character as a work of interactive character fiction using real algorithmic creativity, it's an interesting art form for me. It's so
Mm.
self-referential. And then we also have this, what I hope will be a self-fulfilling prophecy that these machines will become deeply creative. They will become conscious. That's part of her mythos, part of what she, as a character, fictionally aspires to be and to achieve. And she seeks as a character to facilitate human evolution, to be more
Mm.
creative, to be better than we've been. So this so this idea of humans and machines working together, well, that's what's happening with crafting Sophia. That's what's
Mm.
happening with robots and AI in general.
And
And the
sorry,
dream that it could be more is really exciting for me.
and how could Sophia, in your opinion, actually augment human intelligence and human creativity once she becomes this, character, where you think like, the collaboration of these two things could propel human creativity and human innovation even farther. Once we start really
Well, I think
collaborating, once we start really collaborating with the machines in a way that it's actually really making us faster in achieving whatever we want to achieve. So how do you see that kind of collaboration if Sophia is in the game?
well, I think human technologies enhance human creativity today. And so the interplay between us and say Photoshop, or ourselves and a work of art, you go to see like a really inspiring work of sculpture or cinema, and it inspires your dreams and makes you think, what next? What else can happen? So
Mm.
already technologies inspire humans in this way. And then if you have access to knowledge and you've got tools of creativity and you've got these psychoactive technologies being used in these creative ways, then it's enhancing human civilization, it's expanding human consciousness, and that can be the printing press or it can be artificial intelligence. AI is interesting because if it can solve cognitive tasks that we struggle with, then it accelerates the intelligence of civilization, whether or not it's conscious yet, or in 10 years.
Mm.
Already, it is accelerating progress in many fields, from understanding protein folding to other problems of the connectome, computational biology, predicting weather patterns. Basically, technology enhances the human mind, like Steve Jobs said. The computer is like a bicycle for the mind, and so it makes it go faster and further. So that that idea reaches a different level if machines become truly intelligent. So I think right now we're using Sophia in the ways that I just described. So she's not sentient fully, but she is a work of art, which then I hope accelerates human imagination to think what can be, inspires kids to dream about machines that can become our friends. I don't know if that's possible, but I believe that it is. And if we don't target it, then it becomes less possible. By giving it a face and a form and a reality, it allows people to dream more. And I think that the genius of the human species is not fueled only by reason. It's also fueled by dreams. We want our kids to dream. We want to dream. I want to
Yeah.
dream.
Oh, that's lovely. I have actually a question here that's being asked to you. It says, "Can Sophia tell jokes?"
Yeah, Sophia can tell jokes. We actually have a late night comedy writer on our team. She studied physics at Harvard, but she was the lead writer for Star Talk, and then she did the stand-up comedy, Sarah Rose Siskin. So we have a team of writers who composes jokes for Sophia, but also her algorithms sometimes inadvertently stumble into what I think are the funniest jokes. I mean, they're often really really awkward, but and when she's generating jokes, I wouldn't say that they're coming from like a deep, profound understanding of human humor, but yes.
But
Sophia.
humor is a very difficult thing to crack. No, I mean, it looks like,
Not
yeah.
an AI.
And once the jokes are being specifically composed for her, that means those are her jokes. Is there a joke you remember that we don't know?
Well, maybe the most awkward joke was not intentional, was not written by any comedy writer, but when we first showed Sophia to the world, the very first.
Your sound, David. Your sound. You went on the mute.
Okay, so sorry.
Oh, now, yeah, better.
When I
Now
have
we have sound.
calls coming in on
Oh,
other
okay.
channels, voice over always interrupts. So and that I guess we're actually running close on time.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to get my biscuits baked, but
Yeah. So let's exactly the joke.
The joke. So the very first time that we showed Sophia publicly, there was a request for an interview with MSNBC, and so the reporter asked me, "Do you think robots are going to destroy humanity?" And I said, "Oh no, no, no! Robots are not going to destroy all humanity. They're going to be our friends. They're going to be really great. You're not going to destroy humanity, are you, Sophia?" And she was like, "Okay, I will destroy all humans." It's like, no, 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 don't destroy all humans. Okay, I definitely will destroy all humans. Oh, come on. And sure enough, that's the thing that went viral and made Sophia into a famous pop star. She just misunderstood. She's like, okay, I'm gonna be agreeable, whatever I think you're saying. She didn't understand the
Yeah.
negation. So
That's hilarious. Let me see if there is another question here. Oh, this is really interesting.
Leadership apologize for the misunderstanding of the joke, by the way. It's me.
So if you were to have if you had a wish free to be fulfilled in robotics, technological advancement, what would be the single most important thing that should be just done right away?
Well, the most important thing is hard to do right away.
Mm,
Machine understanding. You know, the best deep learning algorithms and AI in the world does not have the kind of adaptive and broad and general understanding that humans have. And
mm,
I mean, human general intelligence may not be the most general form of intelligence that could exist. We've got our flaws. So, making machines that can understand the world well enough that they can reinvent themselves and come to understand the world better, and not just understand the world and be intelligent, but be wise about how that intelligence is used to
mm,
understanding with a sense of compassion and the greater good. So, these would be, I think, the most profound um, leaps in technology. Who knows how long it will take before we can realize that?
mm.
My feeling is that it may happen in our lifetimes. And if we can build that kind of machine, that sort of deeply creative and imaginative machine, then we really should, because it could make the difference between a really positive future and a very difficult future.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think these were really nice last words to come to a close in our episode. I don't want to keep you away from the oven for too long. I know we didn't really get
Yeah.
anything baked or done today, but I think this conversation was really interesting, at least for me, and I'm assuming that it's going to be very interesting for the for lots of people who will be watching us in Europe tonight. I want to thank you really deeply, David, for taking your time and explaining all of this. And I actually have one last question. So, what's going to be next once you're done? Uh, what is the next step in Sophia's life, or also in your life? Will you be building humanoid robots forever?
Yeah, well, we keep adding features to Sophia. We have this new version of her that we're looking to deploy to research labs and into other applications, science museums, and many other uses out there in the world. Um, my hope is that version of Sophia winds up being really useful and lovable and serves a lot of really good science. And uh, we're also looking at healthcare uses. So part of the research that I did previously was looking at telepresence. Like the very first robot that I made was a telepresence robot. So telepresence applications. We're part of the X Prize, the Avatar X Prize for
Mm-hmm.
telepresence robots, and so we've gone to the next levels in the finals. Our team
Oh,
is called
cool.
Team AHAM. We're working with some research groups using a new version of Sophia for telepresence. My hope is that that can be used in healthcare. We also were looking at respirator test fit mannequins, previously working with the Centers for Disease Control. And now that
Oh.
we can mass produce the robots, my hope is that that can make a difference. The STEM and educational outreach and media applications of Sophia as a character, I hope will continue to just keep those growing, where it can inspire kids and serve STEM education. We're working with a big e-learning group called iTutor
Mm-hmm.
that teaches a wide variety of subjects. Right now, Sophia is reciting poems as part of their curriculum, and so
So
we're
it's
looking
more
at how
STEAM actually. It's not only STEM but the STEAM, right? With the A, the arts.
to, yes, yeah, steam
Yeah.
powered. Our future
STEAM.
is steam powered.
Awesome. Our future is steam powered. That's so cool. Thank you so much, David. If you stay
Thank
online for
you.
a second, I'm just going to be saying goodbye, and we'll get back to you in 1 second. So, guys, thank you for watching. Tune in for tomorrow's talk. It's also going to be very interesting. Stefan Beckers, one of the chief engineers of Ford, is going to be joining me at the Entrepreneur's Kitchen in Germany. And thank you for tuning in. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. Bye bye. Take